The 1960s was a decade like no other. After the tidy, buttoned-up 50s, the 60s arrived with a burst of energy, music, and color that changed the way people dressed forever. It was the era of rock and roll, dancing under spinning lights, and daring to wear something that made parents shake their heads. Clothes weren't just clothes anymore. They were a way of saying, "This is who I am." Today on RetroNest, we're taking a warm look back at 10 vintage fashion trends that defined the 1960s. These were the styles that turned sidewalks into runways, sparked conversations, and left a mark on fashion history. 1. Bell-bottoms. If you picture the 60s, chances are you see bell-bottoms. Wide at the leg and swaying with every step, they turned an ordinary walk into a little performance. Young people loved them because they felt free, different, and just a bit rebellious. Originally worn by sailors, they became the uniform of festivals and dance halls. By the 1980s, they had all but disappeared, but to this day, they remain one of the most iconic pieces of 60s style. 2. Go-go boots. Nothing lit up a dance floor like a pair of go-go boots. Shiny, white, and reaching up to the knee, they were first designed in the mid-60s and quickly became a must-have. Women paired them with short skirts and bold dresses, and suddenly the future felt right there in the nightclub. By the 70s, platforms stole the spotlight, but those go-go boots still capture the playful, energetic heartbeat of the decade. 3. Miniskirts. Few items of clothing shocked the world like the miniskirt. For generations, hemlines stayed safely below the knee. But in the 60s, designers like Mary Quant dared to raise them higher, and young women loved it. It wasn't just a new look, it was a new attitude, a statement of freedom and confidence. Today, the miniskirt is still around, but its rebellious debut belongs to the 60s. 4th, tie-dye shirts. In the middle of the decade, a new wave of fashion emerged, not from designers, but from young people themselves. Tie-dye was colorful, unpredictable, and easy to make at home. Each shirt was like a little work of art, full of swirls and splashes that no one else could copy. Tie-dye spoke of peace, individuality, and creativity. Though it faded with the end of the hippie movement, it still returns whenever people want to bring a little 60s spirit back. 5. Shift dresses. Simple, clean, and modern. The shift dress became a favorite for women on the go. Instead of the tight waists of the 1950s, it offered freedom, movement, and a chance to show off bright colors or bold patterns. It was perfect for work, parties, or just everyday life. The shift dress reflected the changing role of women in society, stylish yet practical. Though fashion later moved back to more fitted shapes, the shift remains one of the 60s most timeless looks. 6. Psychedelic prints. Walk into a 60s boutique, and your eyes would dance with color. Swirls, spirals, and dazzling shapes covered dresses, shirts, and even wallpaper. These psychedelic prints were inspired by music, art, and a sense of exploring new ideas. They weren't just patterns, they were experiences. While the 70s softened things into earth tones, psychedelic prints will always remind us of the wild imagination of the 60s. 7. Headbands and hair accessories. Fashion in the 60s didn't stop at the shoulders. Headbands, scarves, and flower crowns became just as important as dresses and shoes. They framed big bouffants, short pixie cuts, or long straight hair, adding a little extra flair to any look. Each style said something different: mod, bohemian, or simply fun. Though the trend faded as hairstyles changed, those headbands still remind us of a time when hair was just as expressive as clothing. 8. Turtlenecks. Not every 60s trend was loud and colorful. The turtleneck became a favorite among artists, writers, and film stars who wanted a sleek, thoughtful look. It was practical for cooler weather, but carried a sense of quiet confidence. On movie screens and in coffee houses, the turtleneck felt smart and sophisticated. While it slipped in and out of fashion over the years, its simple charm has never completely left us. 9. Fringe and Suede. As the decade moved toward the hippie movement, fashion took on a more natural, earthy style. Suede jackets with fringe and handmade accessories gave clothing a personal, crafted feel. These pieces reflected a desire to step away from mass-produced fashion and reconnect with something more authentic. Though the look faded when styles turned shiny and glamorous in the 70s, fringe and suede will forever be linked to the free-spirited 60s. 10. Bold sunglasses. Round, oversized, or oddly shaped. Sunglasses in the 60s weren't just practical, they were statements. Rock stars wore them on stage, young people wore them at the beach, and suddenly they became part of the outfit rather than just an accessory. From John Lennon's round frames to Jackie Kennedy's oversized shades, sunglasses defined an era of confidence. Over time, designs changed, but the 60s showed us that sunglasses could carry just as much personality as the clothes themselves. The 1960s was more than a fashion decade. It was a moment of courage, imagination, and change. Each of these trends tells the story of a generation that wanted to be heard, seen, and remembered. Which of these 60s styles would you bring back into your own wardrobe? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, be sure to like, subscribe, and join us here at RetroNest, where the past always has a place.